Hopefully we're live. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm just going to talk about unimportant things for a second. We just got off the phone with our accountant for the tax year, so that's always fun. Can you turn your little thing down just a little bit? It's a little bit loud. I have ADHD, I think, and so if I can hear myself talking on his earphones, it's very confusing to me. So my husband's in here in the chat as 6 Miles to Supper, and he'll be moderating and stuff. And thank you, Jay, for moderating.
Can you hear it anymore?
I cannot hear it anymore. So we're good to go. Okay. So welcome to this live. My name is Kayla Cox. If you've never been on one of these lives, I sit here and I answer questions to the best of my ability about the weight loss journey. I lost 80 pounds with intermittent fasting. I lost that weight over the course really of a couple of years. It was kind of like in 2 different segments where I was losing that weight. And then I've been trying to maintain in the 140s since that time. And that was late 2018 when I got down to like my final goal weight and I decided to maintain. Really my main goal is just to keep my BMI in the normal range, which for me is anything technically less than like 155, 154, 155. So yeah, so if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I am not a doctor or a nutritionist or a dietitian. I'm just someone who's been there and done that. And I'm so not perfect. I eat everything. I don't have any kind of food restrictions. And so I'm happy to just share what I've found on the weight loss journey. So we had a question on here that I wanted to get to from Forever Saved by Grace, which says, how do you get back on track after you've been off for so long? Each day I want to try again, but I fail by noon. Noon. And that really works in well with a thing, like a little topic that I think is important, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit on this live, which is perfectionism and how bad it is for the weight loss journey. I speak as a recovering perfectionist. I don't feel like I am a perfectionist anymore, but I have that tendency. In other words, my default is to kind of be perfectionist, and I fight against it all the time. And perfectionism, actually, I can hear still. You just sorry, sorry. Maybe I got louder probably. But perfectionism can really throw you off track, and it's tricky because, okay, I want to do things well. Everything that I do, I want to do it really well, to the best of my ability. When I was a kid in school, I wanted to get straight A pluses. I didn't want A's, I wanted A pluses. If I got like a 98 on my test, I was very upset with myself for making that mistake. And that kind of like perfectionism can actually lead to failure, like to really not achieving things, because a lot of times you give up. And that was certainly my my problem with weight loss, for example. I would be on a plan. I would get on a diet. You know, I'd say, okay, I'm going to be low carb, right? And then I would go full on into that plan. And while I was on the plan, I was very, very strict with myself. Amazing willpower, just, I mean, to the letter. I would do it, and a lot of times I would get down to my goal weight, but usually, or sometimes, like if I messed up, which does happen because you're not perfect, I would just quit outright. It was like, I didn't do it perfectly this day, you know, so I'm just not going to do it anymore. And so then my eating was like no rules at all, no restriction at all, and then of course weight gain would happen. And this can manifest on with intermittent fasting specifically, because people can get really perfectionist in their thinking. They get really afraid of like, what breaks a fast? And oh no, I had a bite of food, or I drank a sip of coffee with, you know, had sugar in it. And so is the fast ruined? And here's the thing. No, the fast is not ruined. Whenever you make a mistake, it's just an opportunity to learn. And if you can do this, if you are a perfectionist, what really helped me? Number one, the thing that really helped me to kind of start letting go of my perfectionism was to realize what I really wanted was good results. And perfectionism was giving me bad results because of the constant quitting and the not being consistent and the constant unforgiveness of myself that was making me miserable. Because it's like anytime I messed up, I was very cruel to myself in my mind, that inner dialogue, calling myself stupid or fat or whatever the things that, like, some really negative things would go on. And so, like, starting to let go of that and to be more humble and say, I'm not perfect. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to make lots of mistakes. Just like really understanding I'm going to make lots of mistakes on the weight loss journey. I'm going to overeat sometimes. I'm going to forget that I'm fasting sometimes. And when I make a mistake, fast forgiveness. Like, okay, you did that. Let's try to learn from it, but you're forgiven. Let's move on. And then when I got into that mode, first of all, it makes life so much more enjoyable because you can relax because you're not trying to be perfect. You know that you're going to mess up. It's not like, oh, you're dreading that day where you're going to mess up on the plan. It's like, no, I'm going to mess up. And I can tell you, I mess up all the time. But just embracing that and not trying to lie to myself and say, like, I have to be perfect. Like, no, it's fine. Just, you can mess up and it's okay. That really helped me. And so to tie it back into that question, which is, you've gotten off track, and how do you get back on track? And if you're failing by noon, like all that, it sounds to me like you are setting your expectations too high for where you're currently at. And that's another part of perfectionism, is lowering the expectations down to a human level. And so what I would recommend is set your fasting window to end at noon. Do it on purpose. Just say, okay, right now, my fasting window ends at noon. That's when it opens up. And practice that for as long as you need to practice that until it feels very doable and easy. And it's like, yeah, I can be so consistent with this, and you get it down pat. And it's no longer like you're not failing anymore because you're doing the thing on purpose. Do that consistently. Be consistent with that until, like, 6 weeks is a great period of time to just get consistent with a thing. But if you need longer than that, if it's like still after 6 weeks you feel a little shaky on, not like shaky like your hands are shaky, but you feel like I need to get in a better habit, then do it for as long as it takes. And that, I think, can really help. Because there's just something really good that happens when you can be consistent with the plan that you have set up for yourself. When you're just doing the thing on purpose every day, you're like, okay, today I'm going to fast until 12, and then I will eat after 12. And by doing it that way, then you have set up success every day. You've set yourself up for success. Whereas right now, what you're doing is every day you're getting to noon, but you probably feel like you're failing. And so instead, just flip it around. Just like, okay, that's my new fasting window for now. That doesn't mean that you can't ever push it out, because once you get very comfortable and very consistent, then you can start pushing it out a little further. Maybe you could say, I'm going to do it until 12:15 today. And I know that sounds like, baby steps, but I find baby steps really work. And that's how I did, like, my pushing out of my window. I started out saying, I'm not going to eat past 10 p.m. and I'm not going to eat before 6 a.m. And if you're doing some math there, it means I basically slept through it, but it was a good beginning boundary for me with food, because before that, my tendency was we would sit there and be watching TV, and I'd be eating late into the night sometimes. And then, I would eat first thing right when we got up early in the morning. And so by just having like a first little boundary with food and getting consistent with that, and then just slowly pushing it out as I felt ready, it'd be like, okay, I think I could wait until 6:15. I think I could wait until 6:45. And then eventually you get to the point where it's like, oh, I'm not even eating breakfast until like 11 o'clock, it's basically breakfast for lunch, and it's just a slow, gradual process. And the good thing about approaching intermittent fasting that way is that your body is getting well adjusted to things before you increase the difficulty a little bit more. And and that's just a thing a lot of us struggle with, is increasing the difficulty too high, too fast, because it feels like an emergency. I've got to get this weight off. I've got to get this weight off. That's how I felt in the beginning. I wanted weight to be gone in like a couple months. Like I wanted to drop the weight and just be done with it. And instead, it was like a pound a week on average. Once I finally got consistent. So that's what I would say. But I know that's hard. I know that it's hard when you've gotten off track to get back on track. But one other thing I'll say is, if you find yourself being resistant to getting back on your plan, I think that's a good indication your plan needs to be easier and more enjoyable. I love my plan. I like it. I mean, I just like, I eat whatever. So I don't have any kind of like, oh, well, once I get back on plan, I can't have bread anymore. I can't have chocolate anymore. I eat all the things all the time, all the time. Like yesterday, I had a ginger snap that my son made. What else did we eat? Had a piece of a Snickers bar. That was for dessert.
Chicken pot pie.
Chicken pot pie that my daughter made. That was my OMAD yesterday. Oh, and some port to drink. Okay. So I think that would be all that I had yesterday. But the point is, I mean, like, there's nothing to dread about my plan for me. Okay. But now some people might look at that plan and be like, that is not at all what I want to do. Like, they want to do more of a window. They don't want to do OMAD. You have to figure out what plan really fits well in your life and that you enjoy doing. But whenever there's dread, that's worth investigating. Just figure out, like, what's the thing that you're dreading about it? Like, getting back on plan, what does that mean? Like, is it like, oh, I don't want to be skipping breakfast every morning? Well, I mean, if it's like you really want breakfast in your life every day, intermittent fasting is probably not for you. But if it's something like, well, I just want breakfast 1 day a week or 2 days a week, well, make your plan that. I mean, I take Sundays off consistently, and these days I do two meals a day on Saturday, and then cheat day on Sunday, so the day completely off, and then Monday through Friday is OMAD. And plans can be customized to fit your specific life. And I would recommend everybody do that, that you figure out what's good for your life and then do that. And so if you've got a plan that you enjoy and that doesn't feel too hard, I think it's a lot easier to get back on track. But sometimes it's like you get in a hurry and you think, well, I can't have that easy plan because the results are going to be too slow. And but then you increase the difficulty, and then because you've increased the difficulty, it becomes this thing like, I don't really want to have to go through that. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Let's see here. Next question from user CZ30N1EO3B. What is your favorite timing when you do a 2MAD? Okay, so I do 2MAD every Saturday. The reason I do 2MAD is because pancake breakfast. Pancake breakfast was the reason I started cheat day on Sunday back in the day. Back in the day when I was doing intermittent fasting, at first I just thought I should just do it every day because I do best. My personality style is this. I do best when I just do a thing every day. If I can just do a thing every day, it's just easier for me to get in that habit. I am bad at knowing what day it is, knowing what time it is, being aware of what season it is, or what month we're in, or sometimes even what year we're in. So it's just helpful to me to just kind of do the same thing every day. So that's what I would want to do, right? But my husband so sweetly wanted to make homemade pancakes on Sunday mornings for us. It was a tradition, I think, the entire time our kids have been,
I can't remember when it started.
it was maybe when our oldest son, who's now moved out, I think when he was a toddler, we started that. And so we always did that. It was like this tradition. Well, okay, then I start intermittent fasting, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to break the fast, but I do want to have the pancakes. And so I would really argue with myself, and I was not consistent at all in the beginning. I would think, okay, well, I just won't eat any pancakes. And so I'd say, I don't want any pancakes today, right? And I don't know if he remembers that, but sometimes I'd be, I don't want it. And so I would sit there and just have my coffee, which was fine, but I felt like I'm not a part of this, and I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part of the pancake breakfast. It's our family thing. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna eat the pancakes. But then it was like I was gonna try to do this weird hybrid intermittent fasting thing where it was like, okay, I'm gonna eat the pancake, but then I'm gonna fast for the rest of the day until my window opens up. And then that just it kind of just didn't work for me because it was just like confusing. I was trying to keep up with my app, like my eating window opening up at a certain time, and it was a Sunday, and it was like I'm all over the place. So I thought, around that time, I was listening to Tim Ferriss, and he talked about a cheat day, and he was in favor of them because of studies, which, yeah, you can find studies that will back up pretty much anything you want to implement in your life. But he said that people were more likely to adhere to their plan, their diet plan, if they had like a cheat day, I don't even think it was a consistent cheat day, but just like being allowed to occasionally take time off from the plan. Uh, that being part of the plan, to take time off from it. And so I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting. So maybe I could do that every Sunday, like just let Sunday be my day off, because it's already my day off from work, and it's a different kind of a day anyway. So that's what I did. I was like, okay, I'm just going to take it off. So that worked out great. It fit in our lives so perfectly. I loved it, loved it, loved it. And then we started going to church, which I also absolutely love. But then that kind of threw me off again because the pancake breakfast couldn't be on Sunday morning anymore because we're in church. So we fast for communion. So it's not like we could just get up early and do the pancake breakfast. We're fasting that morning. So then my husband wanted to do the pancake breakfast on Saturday. We did. I don't want to just say it was like just him. Like it was all of us. We all wanted the pancake breakfast on Saturday. So then I had to go kind of through another, like, okay, what am I going to do with this? Am I going to just have the whole day off? Or am I going to do OMAD or whatever? So I just decided after experimenting a bit, I decided I really like OMAD on that day. So I have breakfast. You know what time we normally eat breakfast? About
On Saturday?
Yeah,
8.
8 o'clock. Apparently we do it. See, I'm not good at knowing what time we do stuff. 8 o'clock apparently is when we do that. So at 8 o'clock we'll have our pancakes, and pancakes, bacon. Sometimes it's not pancakes. Sometimes it's cinnamon rolls. My son makes amazing cinnamon rolls. Sometimes it's like bacon and eggs, or like gravy and biscuits. It's some sort of breakfasty something. And so we'll do that. And I don't time my meals as far as that goes, but I would say probably 40 minutes to an hour, maybe, that we're sitting there eating. It might be a little bit less, depending on what we've got going on for the day. And then I won't eat anything else. I do have my coffee throughout the day, like I always do. I have coffee with half and half whenever I want it, which is usually these days, like 3 times a day. Sometimes it's been 2 times a day. Sometimes it's been 4 times a day over the years. I usually don't go over 4 because I start to get really nervous. I'm just saying, like, I get jittery and I start to be anxious and stuff if I have too much coffee in the day. So I usually have around 3. And so then around it would normally be these days that we would eat supper on Saturdays around 6:30 or 7. Yeah, because we have Vespers at church. So when we get back from that, it's usually around that time, 6:30 or 7. So that, so what? That's kind of like a 12-hour gap in between no, it's 11. Well, it kind of depends on when I stop eating. But anyway, that just to kind of give you an idea of that's how late in the evening I eat. If left to my own devices, I kind of prefer a little bit earlier in the day eating. I don't really like later in the day eating just because of I feel like I sleep a little bit better when the meal is a little bit earlier. But I'm more interested in what really fits well in my life, and that's what fits well in my life is to eat a little bit later on Saturdays on that two mad day, and then to eat at 8 in the morning. So yeah, that's that. I wouldn't. So my favorite timing would be to have that second meal a little bit earlier, but in reality, what ends up happening is I eat around 7 or so. All right, next question, Joey. How long is your eating window on your OMAD day? Okay, so that's always an interesting question to me because I don't think of it that way. I like when I say OMAD, I mean it literally. Like I mean I eat one meal a day. So the way that looks is, I cook dinner. Or one of my kids cooks dinner, or Jay cooks dinner. Is whoever, we sit down to a meal, and I sit down at the table and I start eating. That's my first food of the day, and I sit there and eat until I'm done eating. So usually it's around like I guess most of the time it's around 30 to 40 minutes. Sometimes it's a little bit quicker because we got somewhere to be. And then sometimes we don't have anywhere to be and we sit there and talk about, everything, life and what we've been doing and, things like that. So, and so that is, so it's maybe like a 30 to 45 minute window normally. But I don't think of it that way. I don't have like a timer going. I don't use any kind of app that's, that like calculates like, oh, yesterday you had your OMAD at 5:45, so don't have it until 5:46 today or whatever, like to try to keep it at 24 hours or whatever. Like I don't do any of that. It's just I eat supper. So sometimes that's like 6 o'clock. Sometimes it's a lot earlier than that. If we have a midweek liturgy, I eat earlier in the day. As close to noon as possible, and then I don't eat again until supper the next day, which might be if we have several midweek liturgies, which that's kind of a rare thing. Then it would be an earlier kind of pattern, but sometimes it might be a longer gap, right? So if I eat, let's say at like 1:30 on Tuesday, but then the next day I'll eat OMAD at say our normal time, which is around 6 or 6:30. So sometimes I'm fasting for a little bit longer, but that's not because I'm trying to do that. It's just because my rule is just one meal a day. So it's just supper for me. Yeah. So Jane 58 said so no window. Yeah, exactly. No real window. Some people prefer to have more of a window and they just kind of call it OMAD. Like they'll say, well, I kind of open they open it with I don't know, a salad, right? And they'll order some bone broth, which I still have never had. But they'll have a little something and then they'll wait a while and then they'll eat their meal and then maybe they'll eat a little a little bit later, maybe have a little dessert or something, and they call that OMAD, and I have no problem with that, like that language. It's just that when I'm saying it, that's what I mean. I mean literally like one meal a day. When I sit down to the table, I sit there, eat, and then when I stand up, I start fasting again. Now, in the past, when I was really getting used to OMAD, there were times when I was just trying to figure out like, am I full yet? I really wanted to dial that in. I wanted to be just full enough, but not too full. And one thing that helped me was to, when I thought I was done eating, I would get up from the table and I'd like go into the kitchen or something, get some water. And then the act of standing up, there's just this really weird thing. It would tell me, I would have a much better sense of am I full or not once I stood up. Like sitting there, I really couldn't tell. Like, am I full? I don't really know. Couldn't really tell. But then sometimes I would stand up and be like, I am overly full. And then other times I would stand up and think, I'm actually still hungry. So if I found that I stood up from the table and I was still hungry, I would sit back down and eat. So this isn't like me being super strict and like, like, oh, you just stood up and now you can't sit back down. I would, be pretty gentle with myself on that. And, but the idea is like, I don't sit there or, throughout the evening and kind of snack around. That usually leads to weight gain for me if I have no real like structure when it comes to that kind of thing. So I keep some structure on that. But again, not a hard and fast rule. Like if let's say we eat supper, but my son has a pie in the oven and it's not going to be ready for like an hour, and I'm going to eat pie. Like it's not like, oh, I missed my chance. Like I'm going to eat the pie. So yeah, so that's kind of how I approach it. All right. Johnny says, how do you keep from overeating on your days off? I try not to. But no, so the best thing that I've found just in general for eating the right amount of food and it is to, okay, stay busy. Keeping busy and not being bored is really helpful. I mean, that's helpful for just intermittent fasting, being consistent with intermittent fasting. When you're bored, it's really easy to think, a snack would be nice, because it's entertaining and it's fun to eat. I really enjoy eating. So I do have to be aware of that, that tendency to just eat out of boredom or out of stress, certainly out of stress. That I would say is the big one that I have to be the most mindful of. Like I've, in maintenance. So like when I was in weight loss mode, so like the years of like 2016 and then late 2017 to say late 2018, those two particular time periods in my life, they were magical. They were really good. Like there really wasn't anything bad happening in our lives at that point. I look back still and think, man, things were so good back then. Sometimes like just basically everybody was healthy, and it was good. But since I would say 2020, we've just had a lot of loss in our lives. Like we lost his dad. We lost my dad. I lost my granny and papa. We lost a close family friend. We lost a friend who was murdered. There's just been a lot of, and that's right. His sister passed away last year. And so there's just been a lot of these very emotional things that in the past I would have certainly, if just like sit there and eat, because eating made me feel better, like at least in the short term. It's one of those vicious cycle things, like you feel good in the short term, but in the long term, you're actually making yourself miserable. So I have definitely learned that the overeating thing, like, so on a day off, right? Like, so OMAD makes things really easy, and even 2MAD, it makes it very easy for me to not just sit there and overeat, because it's like, there's just these limited time periods, right? It's like I sit down to the table, we're eating. It's in the context of this is a family meal and we're eating. And so there's not a whole lot of opportunity there for overeating, although it's certainly possible. But on a day off, that's when I would say that's the most likely time, because it's just so easy to just sit there and eat a little bit at a time and have that accumulate into eating too much, right? Um, and so what I have, uh, I've tried to just remain aware of that, like just like knowing's half the battle kind of thing. Like it's true. Um, I really, I try to remind myself on those when it's hard, when those days, like when it's just those time periods where there's just a lot of stress, or things are really sad, or things are really sad right now. If that's happening, um, on my days off, I just remind myself, like, hey, remember, you're going through a hard time right now, and you have this tendency to eat, emotionally eat. And so, you know, if you're sitting there and you're thinking that you want a snack, do you really want a snack, or are you just sad? I do try to just ask myself that question. Sometimes the answer is no, I just want a snack, and it's fine, and I'll have the snack. But then other times it's like, it's actually just sad. So if I find that I'm like, okay, I feel like eating, but it's really just because I'm sad, I will try to do something as an alternative, right? So let's do a puzzle, like, or let's go for a walk, or something that will end up being good for me, that will actually make me feel better. And so that's how I approach it. But yeah, so I yeah, I think that answers that. So okay, Lucy says, how do you get back on track? I lost 50 pounds and gained half of it back. Well, congratulations for keeping half of it off, though. That's really good. The reason why is I went back to bad habits when I saw the scale was no longer moving. I did keto several years ago and I lost weight really fast. It felt great to lose weight quickly, but keto is hard to do for a lifetime. So yeah, I am not keto. I'm not even low carb. I just, I never have been in, like, well, I don't have the motivation to do it. Like I'm not really convinced by any of the things I've read about it. As far as like, oh, like that. Whenever there's like an extreme version of anything, I tend to be skeptical. I look back at like all of the human history of how we have eaten food, and like people, different cultures have eaten a wide variety of foods. Different, like I think the oldest recipe, I think you can fact check me on this. The oldest recipe we have is for pie, which I just think is great. But the point is, like, we've eaten bread, we've eaten rice, we've eaten lots of grains, but we've also eaten lots of fats and fish and meat and dairy, lots of cheese. So I'm not convinced it's like, oh, you should definitely eat this way. But more than that, more than the nutritional things, arguments that might be made for that, is just the social aspect. There, I have seen people, and I've also read about people who will isolate themselves, who are like really, like, oh, I'm keto, and like, so I gotta like got to be keto all the time, so they will not go to parties and stuff because there's going to be pizza there, and they know that that's not on plan, so they just won't go. And that kind of isolation, I feel like, is far worse for you. For human beings need to be around other human beings, in my opinion. Even though I'm an introvert, and I'm not a big party person, but human relationships are important. So and I've just watched lots of people near and dear to me go on keto drop drop weight fast, but not keep it off. Like not even kinda, not even, just gained it all back plus some. And it just, I've not seen, I can think of maybe one person. I don't know them well enough to know if they are actually sticking with it on a consistent basis. Like I know of one person out of all the people that I've known that have gone on keto that actually have stuck with it. I've known far more people who went on it, lost some weight, but couldn't keep it off. So yeah, it's really important. Like with weight loss, anything you do, like any weight that you lose, you have to be able to keep it off. Like that's the whole point, right? I mean, nobody wants to lose weight only to regain it. I mean, maybe actresses do for a part or something, but other than that, like you really do want to keep it off. And the keeping it off, like I feel like people should start there. Like think about, you're at your goal weight, like just pretend for a moment, like you're at your goal weight. What do you want your life to look like? What kind of food do you want to be eating on a day-to-day basis? Is there anything in your life that like you are going to try to like not eat in the short term, but man, once you get down to your goal weight, you want to have that thing? I would say start eating that thing now and just learn how to lose weight while you're eating that thing. Because you do have to, once you get down to your goal weight, you have to be able to eat the right amount of food consistently. It's every day for the rest of your life, basically. Like that's how long you're in maintenance. It never ends. Like my maintenance will never end on this weight loss journey until I die. And so I try to keep that in mind. Like there have been times, like I remember at one point, I was losing weight and it was slow. This would have been 2016, and I had made really good progress. But one of our friends, he was doing keto, and he didn't even really have much weight to lose at all. But he was just like really talking about how fast he was losing weight, and I was so tempted. I was like, because I was losing a pound a week, and this guy was talking like dropping 10 pounds. I'm like, that's 10 weeks of progress, like that's 10 weeks of doing this plan that I'm doing. And so there was this part of me that was like, oh, that's so tempting, from the results oriented aspect of me, that I really like good results. But I always rein myself in by asking myself, can I stick with that for the rest of my life? And I thought, nah, the day that I hit my goal weight will be like all the cookies, all the cakes, all the everything, all the ice cream back in my life, all the bread, pasta every day for every meal. Like it was not going to be good. So I just decided, okay, so I'm not going to, that has been my rule for myself. I do not incorporate any rule that I do not really believe, like when I really think about it, that I could continue on doing it for the rest of my life. So that means like food group restrictions, those are just off the table for me. I'm not going to do it because that is not what I want my life to look like. And I know that the minute I, hit the goal weight, I would be back to doing it the other way. So let's see. Oh, beer recipe might be the oldest. Well, but what about meal? I'm talking entrees here. Well, pie can be an entree. And actually pie, probably the type of pie it was probably a savory pie. So yeah, but beer also, I want that in my life. I love wine and beer. I don't drink to excess, but I want all these things in my life. So yeah, anything that's hard to do in the short term, I'd say, even if it can give you fantastic results, like I would just say, don't do it. Do something that you can stick with for the rest of your life. It's just this, it's so boring, I know, because I'm so resistant to this idea. When I was obese, like I had heard my whole life, oh, that just permanent lifestyle change, that's what is really the key to weight loss. Like I just was so resistant to that idea. I wanted the fast thing that would burn off the fat and, do all the things and rev my metabolism. And it's just true though. Like if you'll just go that route of permanent changes, like because permanent changes, like it results in permanent results. But if you just do temporary changes, the results will be temporary. That's what happens. So let's see. Janedo 58 says, have you ever had any issues as far as cholesterol? I never have, but two things on that. Okay, first of all, I haven't had my cholesterol tested and I don't even know when. I think it was for my life insurance exam when my daughter was just newborn. I don't know. Like, but I was obese back then when I took the test and I did not have any problems. Like it was normal. So yeah, I'm not the one to ask about like, how are your blood numbers? I don't know. I assume fine. I'm kind of one of those, like, I don't go looking for trouble, which I mean, and that's not because I'm anti-science. I really am pro-science. There was a very good article by Atul Gawande. He is a medical doctor. I love his work. I just read his book, The Checklist Manifesto, which I really like because I love checklists. And there were some interesting things in that book, but a better book by him is Being Mortal, which that I would really like to go back and reread it now that I've experienced so many deaths in our family. I read that book really before a lot of people started dying in our family, and that I just remember like the book was so good. Makes a lot of good points. But anyway, but that's really not, that has nothing to do with the blood the blood testing. But in an article he wrote, and Jane, maybe you can find this, I don't know, if you'll Google, and maybe if you're listening to this video, you can just Google this: Atul Gawande, turtles and rabbits. So, but basically he was talking about kind of how there's so much in the medical field, like where what we're actually doing is we're catching turtles, meaning like we can screen for all this stuff and catch all this stuff. But at the end of the day, what we're actually doing is catching things and treating things that you could actually live with and be fine with. And there are actually ways that they can figure all this out, which is in the article, but I'll tell you. It's like you can go to different countries and you can study the corpses of people who just died of natural causes, and you can see, did they have various diseases in their bodies that were never treated. Overkill, was that the name of it? Overkill is the name of the article. That sounds right. Yeah. Anyway, so
say turtles.
It did say turtles. Yeah. So anyway, you can read that article. Also, just and again, I'm not a doctor. Don't get your medical advice from me. I'm not giving it out. I'm like, don't be like me. How about that? But I have a real concern with how body, like blood, different measurements, right? Your cholesterol, things like that. There is a natural ebb and flow, like that is documented. You can look up that for sure. And so, but what can happen, because medical doctors are very afraid of being sued, they will put you on a thing, like as soon as you have a number, right? That looks, a bit higher. And then those drugs can cause some problems. So here's my philosophy. If I have a problem, I absolutely go to the doctor and I will get it treated. And if I feel like there's a reason for me to do anything in addition, I will do it. But that's my philosophy. So, anywho, okay, well, good. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. Oh, if you didn't see my latest video, it's called "No, You Did Not Gain 5 pounds Overnight," or something like that. Or that was the hook. That was the thing that I said at the very beginning of the video. But basically, it's like I gained 5 pounds overnight ? So anyway, you can check that out, and I will see you guys next week, next Friday at 2.